Good evening. How are you? Well, it's 79 degrees. It's in the evening. I've had a busy day in court, and then we had a soil and water board meeting this evening, which was very productive and a lot of fun. And I had to talk to clients, but now the road is mine. There are a couple of interesting stories. Interesting is a terrible word, but it's appropriate in these days and times when I guess everything is interesting. I'd like to call this Santos Unplugged. Over on MSNBC, Ari has managed to get himself a bunch of tapes of interviews from a documentary on Santos, which are kind of an insight into this madman. And I'm not saying he's crazy, but the way he blathers on lying and then getting caught in it is... It's shocking. It really is shocking. It's hard to believe. And then in terms of inconsistent things, hard to synthesize, we have the situation in which he has a bill on the floor that was voted today, which was to deal with fraud when applying for unemployment insurance. The very charge that he's charged with. So it takes hypocrisies to vaulted possibilities that someone could be so oblivious to their misconduct that they try to pass a law that is reflexive, meaning it goes back against him. So that's really something. Then in the additional category of the absurd, not that it's surprising, is CNN staged a Trump rally last night. I didn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. I would have been screaming at the TV set, and others have confirmed it since. And the thing is, he just went roaming along, according to the reports, with little or no pushback from CNN. Journalism is about asking questions, you know? And so what we had was a series of lies unchecked. Now, I may have told this, I'm sure I told this story before. My grandfather, on Sundays, we'd go over there often, and I'd get a cheese Danish, which he'd have, and he'd bring them to our house when he came to visit us. We weren't far away. But the talking heads would be on, and at an early age, and I'm talking I was in grammar school, he would sit and watch the talking heads on Sunday, and I'd sit next to him, and I don't know if I got it from him or I naturally had this inclination, is people would ask questions, but they'd not ask right at the core of the thing. And the two of us would be sitting there shouting at the TV screen, no, ask him about this or that. And my dad one time heard the two of us doing this, and he says to my grandfather, he says, "Hey, Pop, you know these guys are just lying. Why are you doing that?" It doesn't sound at all like my dad, but that's the voice I'm using for my dad right now. And my grandfather would say, no, this is really serious stuff. This is important stuff. Then my dad would walk away, shaking his head. It wasn't a real argument. It was just, I don't know, they're prodding each other, I guess. But my grandfather, I think, felt responsible for having this argument in front of me. And as a result, he said, well, you know, your dad he's probably right. But he was unreconstructed in his love of political talk. And in fact, when he died sometime in the 70s, I'm not sure when, my grandfather, he had been to a political meeting, and his Democrats, and his candidate had done badly, and he came home and he died that evening. Now, he was an active man. He'd worked hard his life. A lot of it was physical. He was strong in unions and so forth. My dad had no use for politicians, but my dad could read people like, you know, some local politician, which drove my mother crazy when he would say, well, he's going to do this or he's like that, and then it would happen. And she'd say, how do you know that? And she would never comprehend he had that gift. So it was interesting. My grandmother, by the way, well, my grandfather believed all politics was true. My grandmother believed wrestling was true. That was an irony I didn't understand when I was a kid. But as I get older, I find it's pretty amusing. So, CNN, where are they? Like pure, grandstanding, sellout, non-journalistic propagandist for the Trump machine. Okay, so that's enough of that. Now, you know, we have pigs, and they're pets for us, and they have decent spaces to roam around. and we move them around, and we walk with them, we talk to them, we feed them. They will never be on anybody's dinner plate. And that's the way it is. But pigs, pork, veal, eggs, all come from conditions in which, for example, a pig can't turn around, can't lay down, can't stand up in many occasions. And California passed a proposition in 2018 that no pork was allowed to be sold in California if the pork did not allow a pig to stand up, turn around, lay down. And when you look at our pigs, you imagine in your mind what it's like, that's kind of what people think, that there's this space for pigs to roam. Now, a lot of us over the years have learned that's just not so. And that in this circumstance, a couple of things happen. They have antibiotics to keep the pig alive and other things to fatten them up so they can sell these dead pigs for more. And they don't really care about their condition of life. Also, the waste products are terrible, and it often goes out into the land and then sinks into the groundwater, and you find it in neighboring streams and places where people get their well water and so on and so forth. So it is literally a dirty industry, and it has no heart. And the same is true for veal and for how they handle chickens and so forth. So the Supreme Court had a choice to consider what they thought about what was going on, and the pork industry wanted to throw out the rule of law in California that said, we're not allowing you to produce any of that stuff here. And you can be sure that the loudest shouters were from North Carolina and Iowa. And they say they can't sell in California. And it is nationwide a $26 billion industry. And so I would hope more people would eat less pork. I understand it, and what I do is fine. But there's no reason why, if you eat pork, you have to have abused the animal the way they're being abused now that you eat. I don't expect you to name it and make it part of your family and do those kinds of things and treat it as a pet. But if you're going to market it and people are going to eat it, let's face it, you have to have some minimum standards for how you treat an animal. So that's kind of what's on my mind today. It's brief. It's been a long day. It's been a good day. I helped a client in a criminal case today. I was very happy with that. The judge, the prosecutor, and I, we all know each other. But I didn't think that we would have the possibility of a settlement, and it's not real until it's done, but we took some good steps today. So I say good evening to you from my cathedral of trees, and I hope to talk to you tomorrow. And think of your mom, remember, or your wife, or whatever. Bye-bye.